The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar on DXC presented by Sue Hilko and Kelsey Davis. A huge thank you to them for doing this today. A couple of things to go over before we get started. If you have any questions at all, please type them out in the chat or questions windows, and we will read those aloud at the end. And we will also be recording this, so I will send you all a recording. So if you think of any questions in the future, feel free to shoot me over an email and we'll answer any questions you may have. And with that said, I will hand things over to you, Sue.
Okay, thanks so much, Allie. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy work schedules and joining us this morning. So I am Sue Hilko, and with me today is Kelsey Davis, and we're part of the partner support team, pre-sales team here at DXC Procurement Solutions. So today we're going to talk about taking control of your spending. And with that, I will advance and go over the agenda. So I would say about 85 to 90% of the companies that we talk to today are currently paper-based. The remaining 15 to 10% are on systems that just aren't working for them, whether it's their ERP system that they've tried to make work or some other procurement solution that they've purchased. So we'll talk about automating through digital transformation. Can your process become more sufficient? And then, of course, what are the benefits of the DXC procurement solution versus your current Dynamics ERP system? So we're going to address this issues facing companies, ways to control your spending, making your purchases more efficient, and then AP automation. What functionality is best for your company? So when we talk to these companies that are paper-based companies, this is some of the common issues that they express to us as the reason that they are looking to automate. So where are the documents? So the auditors come in and they want to see a copy of this document, this contract, this invoice, something like that. You have to go through the file cabinets, and it always happens. It's the one that's misfiled and you can't find. So so where are they? Too many emails. You're chasing down documents and things like that, and so on and so forth. One of my pet peeves is people who read bullets on a slide, because people can read for themselves. So I'm not going to do that to you and torture you. You can read what they are. But I would say the most common are the approval. They're always chasing down documents. They don't know where they are. They have to go find the person that it was sent to. It's normally either hand delivered if they're in an office, or it's sent via email. And then there's no insight into where that document is once it's sent off to somebody. And of course, lost documents as well. They get misplaced. I once talked to a college, and the gentleman, I said, do you send via snail mail? And he said, no, sneaker mail. So he was walking the campus from department to department to get approval. So those were common issues of people that are on paper-based systems. And these are some common issues of companies that are currently on an inefficient procurement system. So either as I mentioned, either your ERP system or another system. And frequently, the one I have highlighted here, frequently companies today that are on some sort of automated system don't have any integration into their Dynamics ERP system. So that creates issues because you're updating two systems. You added a new GL account. It doesn't show in the other system. You want to add a new vendor. You have to add it in both places. So a lot of duplication, a lot of multiple effort there. That's a very common one. Or the system they're on isn't integrated in real time, so you have synchronization issues. So what that means is that one system is communicating with your ERP system, but sometimes that there's a hiccup in that, and that means the two systems get out of sync, and then you need to chase down those issues. So they also, so that's talking about double entry into multiple systems. And then another common issue that I've encountered is AP is spending hours correcting GL distribution on purchases, or in many cases, people that are requesting or purchasing aren't filling out GL codes because they don't know what they are. So, so automation will help you reduce time and save the pressure on the AP department to continually correct or add those GL accounts. So what's your process today? So I want you to think about what would prompt you to change the way you do it today. So is there missing functionality? What's working in your current system? What's not working? Where could your procurement process become more efficient? So is it your workflow? Is it your approval process? Is it the GL account that I just mentioned? Where could you become more efficient and as a result save time and of course save money? And what would your ROI be if you automated? Because always when we're trying to get approval for a project, we need to show some sort of ROI. So what would your ROI be? Would it be that you're purchasing more effectively, so you're buying from vendors and taking advantages of maybe multi-purchase discounts, or you're saving time with your AP in the GL coding, or you have people that need to get approval before they make purchases. This is another area that I've had mentioned to me where people are buying and then the invoice comes in and that's the first notification that someone purchased something. And so that oftentimes they're spending more money than they need to on those purchases, or purchasing things that really aren't necessary. So what is DXC Procurement Solution? Well, you may have heard of Reqlogic, and that's our name for the past 18 years. So we have had a name change recently due to an acquisition. The product is identically the same, just the name has changed. So rather than Reqlogic, we're now known as DXC Procurement Solution. And as you can see on the screen, we're an end-to-end eProcurement providing automation and workflow functionality. And these are the four main components of the DXC Procurement Solution. So we have requisitions, invoicing, expense management, and timesheets. So today we'll touch mostly on the requisition or the procurement process. We'll touch a little bit on invoicing, which is the result, of course, of the purchase and matching that invoice to the purchase. If you would like to discuss expense or timesheet entry, we'll be happy to do that, Kelsey and I, on a one-on-one demo for you. So why change? We all, I'm going to say most people are not adaptable to change. There's some people that move constantly due to their jobs or military, might be adaptable to change, but the majority of us kind of stay with the status quo. So why should you change? And the buzzword now is digital transformation. It just is another buzzword or phrase for automation. So how can you move to automate your systems? So we'll take a look at requisitions and purchase orders. So how can we help you save money and become more efficient? And these are the 4 buckets that we're going to touch upon today. So we can help you through implementing cost control, making smarter purchases, limiting Maverick spending, that's that purchasing without an approval that I talked about, and of course, increasing your efficiency. And the end goal here is getting the approval before the purchase, keeping that spending down. If you're using budgeting, tracking against budgets. Today, some companies we talk to have budgets, but they have no visibility other than in the ERP system where they are in regards to that budget. Purchasing, who decides who to purchase? Do you have a purchasing department, or is each individual purchasing from whoever they want? Can you become more efficient through someone else deciding who to purchase from, maybe combining purchase orders to take advantage of volume discounts rather than having each individual purchase from Staples, maybe combine that and take advantage of some special pricing that you negotiated. And then accountability. So improve time to order. That's part of your increasing efficiency and save time. So in our next slide, I address the very first budget, implementing cost control. So every process starts with every purchase starts with a requisition. So whether you're familiar with requisitions today, you're doing them manually, or you're not doing requisitions, you're just creating purchase orders today. In our system, every purchase will begin with a requisition. If you're starting with purchase orders today, then requisition is very similar. It's just going to be going through an approval process before that purchase order is created. Provide a standard list of items for purchase. So you can purchase from your ERP inventory. Items you can purchase from a catalog on websites through punch out, what we call punch out, by going out to a website. And usually that is a succinct number of items. And this is a way to control spending by, okay, you can purchase off the Staples website, but you can only purchase these items. This is the standard laptop we want you to purchase. This is the standard laptop case we want you to purchase. So standardizing that purchasing and controlling which items they can order. Then budgets I talked about. If you do use budgets and you want visibility into your budgets, you do have the capability of doing that as you're creating the requisition. And then we have a strict approval process to better control your purchases. So you can control them. You can set up a workflow by dollar amount, by vendor, by department, item, cost center, GL code, et cetera, et cetera. We also have a large number of custom fields, and you could set up your approval process based upon those custom fields. Now, this is an area that sometimes, if you're manual or you're using another system that may not have as strong a workflow capability, that is sometimes a little difficult to understand. So rather than you deciding whom you're going to send this to for approval, the system will decide based upon this stringent workflow that is set up to carry you through the system. So you can, rather than saying, oh, this is for the accounting department, I need to send it to this manager, the system can read that the person requesting the item is from the accounting department, so this is the manager to send it to. So the purpose of an automated workflow is to make sure that the right people approve the purchase before it actually becomes a purchase order. And if you manually select who it goes to, the right people may not see who this needs to go to. So the next slide talks about making smarter purchases, the second piece of that slide. And these are some of the areas where it helps you to make smarter purchases. So you can consolidate, as I mentioned, multiple requisitions on a PO. Implement pricing contracts. So sometimes companies will negotiate to buy X amount of items at X amount of price. There's a couple of different ways to address this. One of these is blanket requisitions. We do have an RFQ process or a bid process. So the advantage of that and the benefit is if you do want to get a price quote, even if it's not a formal RFQ or request for quote, you can send it out to vendors of your choice, and they can either electronically respond or respond on a spreadsheet, and you can import that. Then you can see the various responses and what their pricing is and decide the one that best suits your requirements. And then, of course, my quote that I've used for over 20 years selling ERP systems is, most systems do, ERP systems will do the same thing, right? They'll give you a general ledger, they'll send out invoices, they'll pay bills, but the benefit of automating or digital transformation is you get to see that historical information. So you're not making your decisions in a blind spot. You're making that decision through knowledge of seeing that information on a report. The third is limiting Maverick spending. And I talked a little bit about this, about, people buying and there's no notification to management or to the payables department until they get the invoice, and then you're chasing down who bought this and what was it for. So by eliminating that and requiring that each purchase has a requisition/purchase order before they can buy it, you limit people from purchasing things. I talked to one hospital who actually said someone bought a $70 pen from their office supply company simply because they had no controls in place. So you want to put those controls in place to eliminate some of that spending unnecessarily. So you can create unique entry screens and you can hide fields, add fields, all sorts of things like that. Many times we get a request that I don't want the person requesting the information to choose whom they're going to buy it from. I don't want them to be responsible for entering a GL code, et cetera, et cetera. We can modify those screens and simplify those screens so that they only see the items that the fields that you want them to see. We talked about the routing rules and implementing them. And I talked also about all purchasing decisions made by the purchasing department rather than the person who's requesting it. Then the last bucket there was increasing efficiency. So you can approve on the go. You don't have to be in the office. The other benefit there is you're not sending off an email or handing someone a document. It's all attached and electronic, so it doesn't get lost. You don't need to keep it in a file cabinet. You can always access it anytime on the computer. Real-time integration into your ERP. So when that purchase order is created, it's actually written into the ERP table and visible from both within our product and within your ERP system. So no lost papers I talked about. Audit Trail we'll take a look at. Documents are automatically routed, so whatever that your approval process is, whoever it picks out as needing to approve that document, it will automatically build that audit trail and send it to the approvers, either simultaneously in parallel or in sequential order, your choice. And then you, of course, have the ability to save time and become more efficient by recreating prior orders. So if you have a standard supply order that you do on a monthly basis, you can build that order and copy it, just change the quantities if you want to, and you can duplicate that, saving yourself time of recreating that order every month. So workflow. I talked a lot about workflow because workflow is one of the strengths of the product and also one of the benefits that comes from automation, one of, I guess, the big benefits. So there's 3 different ways to approve. You can approve through our system, which is a browser-based system. You can approve via the email reminder you're sent to alert you that you have a document waiting for your approval. And you can approve through a mobile device. So with that, I'm going to shut this down and I'm going to go over to the product and open up and log in here. And I have already opened DXC Procurement Solution. Notice it still says Reqlogic in some of the places up here. We're still in the process of rebranding in various places. We have it here, but you'll see the name. So the product is the same. It's just that it has a new name. So over here, in order to save time for the purpose of this demo, or webinar, I have created 3 identical requisitions for you in various stages to show you different functionalities. So this is what's known as the home page. You'll notice that this has a listing of all your recent transactions, so easy for you to get to. Your recent requests. These would be requests. You do have the ability to request a new vendor through DXC PS. I'm going to refer to it to shorten it, the name. You can request a new vendor, and that can go through an approval process that you determine. You can collect insurance documents, W-9s, contracts, any other forms that you want to through that approval process, and you can attach them in a library if you would like. And once that vendor is created, reaches its final approval and is created, it is written into your ERP vendor table. So that's part of the real-time integration, eliminating that double entry, saving you time, creating that vendor automatically in the table, but adding the ability to store documents pertaining to that vendor as well as in our system and visible, of course, from your ERP system. So vendor, and down here is the third bucket, which is favorite reports, which you can create reports that are favorites. So let's take a look at the first one of these requisitions that I have started creating. So a requisition is comprised of two sections, basically. So we have the header section. And if I was to create a new requisition by clicking the plus, you would only have to add a description. And all of the other fields would default in for you. So as I mentioned as we were going through the slides, you can hide fields. So if you don't need to see the vendor, or you have various vendors, as I do on this particular requisition, you can hide the fields up here. You can hide project and cost category if you don't utilize projects, and everything else will default for you. So that's the header portion, and we have the line item portion. So I have added 3 items to the line item portion, and right now they're in summary form. And we also have detail form that will give you all of the information. So I'm going to add a new line to this particular item or requisition. And now you can see what the detail looks like. So you note that some of the fields are blue and some of the fields are clear. And this, the blue fields are the required fields. So I can actually, and I have one to show you, modify this screen and hide the fields that I don't want to see. So I talked about simplifying a screen for someone so that it's easy for them to create a requisition by just entering a description, the date they want it, and how many they want. Leave the decision of choosing what the particular item is. So if I say laptop, someone else can choose, maybe the IT manager can choose which laptop, what vendor to buy it from. So as it passes through the approval process, additional fields will be required to create the purchase order, but it can initially start very simple and then add as it goes. Over here, you'll notice one of the fields is gray. That's because this is a custom field. And I hesitate to use the word custom because custom many times implies extra cost. In this case, I've changed, I call it a configured field rather than a custom field. So you can add in about 2 minutes time a configured field. And I've added one here because I did a demo for a company that had events, right? So they had shows that they were attending or marketing events that they were doing, and they wanted to track their purchases against an event. So I added this event field. Now, it can be just a field that you fill in, or you can choose, as in this case, you can add a little table behind it and force them to choose from the drop-down list. So the benefit of this is it's consistency. because if I allowed them to just type in what the event was, some people may misspell Chicago. Some people may abbreviate Chicago. So to standardize it, it's better to have them pick from a list. So I'll just pick Boston here. And notice nothing else has filled in. So I am going to just type in, begin to type an item, or I have a lookup, and that lookup provides me the ability to choose on any field here, and I can change those. And then I can choose here what I want it to do. And I can, of course, then apply the filter so you don't have to go through. Notice also that some are highlighted in green. The green are my favorite items that I purchase on a regular basis. And if I click the green star next to it, I see only my favorite items. So I'll just add a chair mat here. And I'll say I want 3 of those. Now this particular item is set up in the Reqlogic catalog, what we call the Reqlogic catalog. So many companies that we sell to don't use inventory, don't keep track. They're just buying things that are consumed, right? Or set aside for certain jobs and not necessarily flowing through inventory. So you have the capability to set that up, and you can view both inventory items from your ERP system as well as the Reqlogic catalog. So you have quite a bit of flexibility there. Now notice when I chose this item, it defaulted in a vendor. It could be changed. This is controlling spending. You determine whom it is you want them to purchase it through. You can always change it, and saving that AP time over here by defaulting in a GL account. Now my GL account is divided into 3 segments, you'll notice. The first is department, the second is the natural account, and then we have a sub account here. We could default in by segment, say department that's ordering this chair mat. So that's part of the saving that I talked about, that time saving when AP is modifying those because people picked the wrong GL account. This forces it to default in so that it reduces that time that's spent correcting. Now you have the ability to do notes, 3 different kinds, and you also have the ability to attach documents. So you can attach them at the line item, or you can attach them at the header. And with that, I think I have everything, and okay. So it never feels that anything, it looks like this default vendor, it doesn't like. So there we are. Now we have 4 line items on our particular document. I talked a little bit about the budget. I talked a little bit about the routing. So here is the routing that so far is applicable to this particular item. Now, I talked about defaulting, so I don't need to decide who do I send this to. So I know, because of the routing that is set up in the demo system, that Andy is Rex Baker's manager, and Rex is the person that's requesting this. So it's going to him because it's over a certain dollar amount, or all of them go to Andy, depending on your particular process. It's going to Jeff next because it's over a certain dollar amount and it has to go above Andy's level. The IT there's an IT item on here. So William's the IT manager, so he needs to approve any IT purchases. So now you don't have people buying computer components or technology without the IT manager's approval. And the last one down is Alex Supervisor. And the reason that Alex has been added is because I added a legal line here. And that particular, and Alex is approving all legal fees. So that's part of that automated workflow. So the other tab we have is status, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So this is the requisition. If it's now complete, I can then go ahead and submit it. And once I do that, I just click the little arrow and it will tell me that it has been submitted. And it tells me my document was submitted successfully. However, I am over budget. And if I go down now, you'll see that I have a little triangle here telling me I'm over budget. And if I click the little dollars, it will tell me how much over budget I am. So I can see the Reqlogic budget. And in this case, I have set up a budget for legal. So I can see that. I can see where I am. I'm over budget here. I can see if you're using project, you can see a project budget, and you can also see a GL budget from, this is the project budget. You can see the GL budget from your ERP system. And this would be, I am connected today to GP, so this would be your GP budget. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, I'm going to go back and grab the second one down because I've already put that one through the approval process. And I have, if I go now to log out as Rex, who was the initial, and I log in as Fred, who is my purchasing agent in my demo system, you'll see what happens. Now you can auto create a purchase order if you'd like to, if you don't have a purchasing department, when that final approver approves it, you can do that. Now these are all the documents waiting for the purchasing department to approve and create. So you'll notice that this one has a little triangle and it's telling me it's over budget. So I have the option of setting the system up to let it go through, to stop it if it's over budget, or to let it go through but warn me that it is over budget. So it can go through in my system the way I've set it up. So I just need to check the line items that I want to create the purchase order for. And then I need to create the purchase orders. So I talked about how the purchase order, now notice one of these happened to be what we call punch out, where you can go out to, I went out to the CDW website on a special configured piece for us and purchased a laptop. I can send that electronically. I can send it, print it and send it snail mail, or I can email my purchase orders. And I can email them along with documentation that I have attached. So here are the three purchase orders, 23, 24, 25. And if I go over to GP and I open up the purchase order screen and I take a look, I can see them right here. So that's that real integration that we talked about. And that is showing me they've already been created in GP. And if I go up here and I look at this additional tab, we have added Reqlogic attachments. They will show you, I believe it's already open. Might be a different one, but it will show you any attachments and you'll be able to open it up and view them. And it will also show you the status tab or the approval process that happened to this document. So that's GP. I did want to show you that approval process. So if I go back and I log out as Fred and log in as Rex. And I take the last one down. This one I've taken all the way through that approval process and created the PO, so it does show the PO details. If I look at the status tab, this is that nice audit trail that I talked about. So this is visible from within DXC PS or within your ERP system. And you'll notice it tells me date, time, and who did it. So it was created. It was approved by Andy. He said, okay. It was then went to William and it was approved, and then to Alex and approved, and so on. And then the purchase orders were created. You can ask questions through the approval process. You can get answers. You can reject by line item and send it back. There's a whole number of things you can do. So the purpose of today is to just highlight some of the things for you. Now, I talked a little bit about reporting and how important it was to be able to look historically and to see things, and that saving the information is beneficial, and of course automating the process and electronically is important. However, you also want to make informed decisions. So there's a number of reports down here that underneath requisitions, invoicing, whichever it is you're looking at, and you can see them all listed here. And I have, if I take a look at the transaction report, I can see that I have a number of choices to run this report. So if I want to see all of a particular item I purchased, regardless of whom it was from, I can put in a request, or I can leave this line blank and see everybody. I can do that, or any of these fields. Notice also that I can sort my report on those configured fields, that event field that I added. Reports can be formatted, which looks a lot like a Word document, or they can be sent to Excel. And I left all these fields blank with the exception of Rex Baker, and I sent it to Excel. And in order to save time, this is what the report looks like when I send it to Excel. So you'll notice that all of the fields that are on that particular requisition screen are available here. Now, of course, once it's in Excel, you can slice and dice and do whatever you want to do. So I added a pivot table. So now is the benefit of me saying, who did I buy that RAM from and how much did I pay? Now, this looks a little wacky because it's demo data. And so we don't always consistently, it's not a real world business, of course. So you can see this price variance is a little hilarious, but you get the gist of it. So I can see right here. Now, if I wanted to just print for this one company, I could do that. And then to this pivot table, I have added a little chart down here. So it's showing what items do I buy most frequently. Now, I might also want to do this by vendor and then go back And I can edit this, by the way, of course, by simply choosing one vendor. So you do have quite a bit of flexibility. Once that report, I can see everything I bought from Advanced. So I might want to go back to Advanced and say, I spent X amount of dollars with you in this time frame. How about I get a standard discount? So here we are. I added a little chart, and you probably all know how to use Excel, so I won't stay there. I talked a little bit about the ability to duplicate. So here is that ability to save you time by copying a prior requisition that you created. So I talked about a supply order maybe. So if you create a requisition and you gave it a name of supply, you could then pull that up by selecting on a description of supply, and it would feed you back that one requisition. Notice that search and duplicate's also available for expense documents, invoices, and credit memos. So that phone bill that comes in every month, that rent invoice doesn't need to be, you can just simply copy it. So I'm going to start here, since we're in requisitions, on requisitions, and I'm going to go, and I didn't select any criteria, so it's showing me all requisitions. And here are those 3 requisitions that we just looked at. They're all the same. But let's now, I guess the most common thing here is a date range. You can see only those that have had purchase orders created and so on. That's very common. It's available also on reports. And so I can copy just one line item from a previous document by simply checking that line item, or I can copy the entire document by clicking the copy button. And what that does is it goes out and it creates a new requisition with the exact line items that I had on that previous requisition. So another time saving through automation to provide you the ability to take a look, to copy a former requisition and save you time by recreating that over and over again. So I talked about workflow quite a bit, and I talked about approvals. Now, when I showed the approval tab or the status, the routing tab previously, and this is a different requisition, so it's got different routing, and I showed the stat. So the routing is whom is required to approve it, and the status tab is where it is in the process. Now, this particular document we just created. So the audit trail is very small, unlike the other document we looked at. Now, for the approval process, we have 3 ways to approve. We have email, and here's the email inbox. And this is Andy Hobbs's email inbox, and notice his notification. I can approve right from the email that's sent to me. I can approve via a mobile device by logging in here as Andy Hobbs. I will be able to, well, if I delete Rex first, I will be able to see everything that's in my approval queue. Oops, logged me in as Rex, I think, yeah. So this is Andy's review queue. And this is that document I had submitted just a couple minutes ago. So I could open that up from here, and I do have approval by line item and adding. And of course, the last and third way to approve is right within DXC PS. And I do have some extra availability. I have a quick approval, or I can actually go in and I can go to the approval options tab, ask the question that I talked about. I can forward, I can delegate, I have an out of office. There's a number of different things. So 3 different ways to approve. And that takes us through the requisition. Just briefly, let's take a look at the PO invoice entry screen. One nice thing you'll notice about DXC PS is consistency in those screens. So you can go back and once you know one screen, you pretty much know all of the screens. They're standard, very standard looking with a header and a line item. I also pre-created this invoice, right? So purchase for conference. Now this is a PO match invoice. You'll notice the invoice is attached here. And you can, once you save it, you have a pop-up of all the POs from Advance that were created. Here's the one we just did. And once I selected, all the line items fill in. Now you can have a different routing, of course, you normally do for invoices than you do, but you have the same basic functionality, routing, status. It's pulling the GL from the purchasing, from the purchase order, so you don't have to worry about checking that again. Of course, you have it full edit capability. And that's your invoicing. So let me go back now to the PowerPoint. And go down to the slide that I want to go to. So I knew it was going to do that to me. Take me through it back, even though I hit the key. Whoops. To invoicing. So PO invoices, I showed you briefly. You can attach invoices. Two-way, three-way match. Match against receipts, match against purchase order. Copy the invoice and the audit trail visible from ERP, the same as the requisition, it's visible from the ERP. Vouchers automatically created. So once that's approved in Reqlogic, DXC PS, that invoice is automatically created in your ERP table and visible there. Same thing, auto imports of line items you have, and you have a pop-up window that I showed you with those open POs. You also have the ability to do non-PO invoices. So that would be your rent, your insurance, your utilities bills, and things like that. You have the same functionality here. You can see them listed on the screen. And you can automate it one step further. So we showed manually, but you can have your vendors email your invoices. Some of you, even though you're manual, maybe manual today, you're utilizing that functionality. So they can email them to you, they will be automatically created. We have a vendor portal they can be created through. And of course, finally, you can do OCR. So OCR, of course, is optical character recognition. That provides you the ability to have them come in automatically and then go through a process, some mapping, and come into DXC PS and automatically create the invoice. So I always say DXC DXC PS allows you to adapt your processes to adapt our software to your processes rather than vice versa, making you conform to the way we do business. And so these are some of the ways that you can, and these are some of the functionality that you would gain from utilizing DXC PS over your current system. The routing, the audit trail, the routing is much more robust. The cost, it's much less expensive to add a DXC PS user license than an ERP user license. Approval process for new vendors, the document library, and so forth. And then there's another screen here. Those 24 user-defined fields that allows you to configure those screens the way you want them to be configured. Unlimited attachments, defaulting in a lot of those fields. We can default in vendors, GL codes, various fields. The mobile capability, and sending those attachments with the PO as well as that RFQ or bid process. So with that, I'll turn back to Allie. And I think I allowed not much, but 3 minutes for questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Sue. It doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment, but are there any frequently asked questions that you could go over while maybe some people are typing in some questions?
A frequently asked question is, do I need a ERP, a GP, or an SL license to utilize DXC PS? And the answer is no. In fact, that's a major benefit in that our licenses are much less expensive, as I mentioned, and you can you can give visibility to a number of people without them having access to the ERP system. I guess another question is implementation and how fast can I be up and running? And that's totally contingent on the company, of course, and the amount of time that it takes varies, usually between 3 to 6 months from the beginning to the actual go live, and that is contingent upon how prepared the company is, buy-in from senior management, and the adaptability of their staff to change. So, so those are a couple of the things that are asked.
Well, thank you, Sue. It doesn't look like we have any questions today, but like I said, it's being recorded and sent out to you all, so if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And just a huge thank you to Sue and Kelsey and the DXC team for presenting today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your week.
Okay, thanks, Allie.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a great one.